Hi, Waffles. It's Uncle Kurt, and I know we can't be together for Christmas. And let me tell you how this idea popped into my head. So I was working on Tyler's Christmas stocking here. See, Uncle Kurt's always been kind of crafty. Did you see my chapel? I made This was on the Christmas card. I don't know if you caught all the detail. There's a little horseshoe over the chapel and bells, and they really ring. And Granny sent me some supplies for Christmas, so I made a whole village. I'm gonna make a donut shop. It'll be on the card next year, and maybe a drive-in movie. So I'm working on Anthony's stocking, and that reminded me of a Grandma Rita story. And I said, we can't be together to tell Grandma Rita stories this year, but I can make a video. And this is a story. This is a story about my very first Christmas. So this is 60 years ago. 60 years ago on Friday, this happened. Of course, I don't remember this because I was only 7 weeks old. But the story was told to me many times, and I suppose it's time that I handed it down, through the generations. And this is a story about Grandma Rita. She came to our house. We lived in this little teeny tiny house on Chenery Street in what's now called Glen Park. I don't know what we called it in those days. I think we just called it the Outer Mission. And it was this teeny tiny house, and it was Christmas Day. Of course, we're a big family, and so we had everyone over, and then Grandma Rita. She lived on the other side of town. She lived in the marina on Fillmore Street, and so she showed up in a taxi cab with a giant stocking. I mean, it was a giant stocking. It wasn't a stocking like this little. I'm just gonna put some cookies and things in the stock. Well, I mean, Santa is gonna put some cookies and things in the stocking. So I consulted with Santa to make sure it was to his specifications. And but this was a huge stocking. Grandma Rita stepped out of the taxi cab in front of our house with this huge stocking. And here's how big the stocking was. Grandma Rita sat on one of our bar stools that was next to our kitchen. In those days, everybody had bar stools next to the kitchen. So she sat on a bar stool. And Grandma Rita she was model height. She would have been about 5'9". And she sat there on the bar stool holding the stocking, and the stocking went all the way down to the floor. That's how big this stocking was. And Grandma Rita reached into the stocking and just started pulling out all kinds of stuff and handing it out. There were, Christmas cookies and probably a nativity set. Knowing Grandma Rita, she loved nativity sets. And little toys. We always said, if you put batteries in it, Grandma Rita will buy it. So she was always giving us little toys that said "Made in Japan," and they had lights, and it would be a little choo-choo train or a little police car, fire engine, something like that. She's handing all this stuff out. Every kind of Christmas thing you could imagine. Probably a fruitcake, and she she got all the way to the bottom of this huge stocking. And she looked inside and she said, "There's what I was looking for." And she pulled out a bottle, a square bottle. And the bottle would have had either an old gentleman on it or a crow. Not sure what Grandma was drinking that day, but it would have been one of those two things. And she handed the bottle to my dad, your grandpa. And she said, "Clifton, make me a highball." People don't believe this is true, but it's true. I grew up thinking that my father's full name was Clifton Make Me a Highball because I used to hear it a lot, especially around Christmas. And so that's our Grandma Rita story for this year. And I'm going to get back to making my little stocking, and I'm sure you have a little stocking. And maybe one day we will have a gigantic stocking and cram it full of all kinds of. Maybe we'll do that next year because Uncle Kurt knows how to sew, and maybe I'll just show up in Oklahoma next year with a gigantic stocking in my taxi cab. I would have tension tamer tea at the bottom. At the bottom, and probably some Christmas cookies at the bottom of my stocking, but we can all say, Clifton, make me a highball. Maybe I'll write a song. You know what? I'm going to write a Christmas song called Clifton, Make Me a Highball. Next year we'll all sing it. Okay. Merry Christmas. I'll see you on the Zoom.